It was the cough that didn't belong. In the city where silence only came with sirens and trash blew like ghosts through alleyways, Jonas had learned to ignore most things. Screams, laughter, threats, the moans of another drunk folding into the gutter. But that cough, it was too controlled, too practiced. Not the kind that came from sickness, but from a man still fighting something, or someone. Jonas turned his head from under the filthy blanket, blinking through crusted lashes, as he sat beneath the loading dock behind Farley's deli. The December wind bit through his jacket like teeth. His legs had long since gone numb. Another day without food, another night with the rats. The cough came again. Jonas stood slowly, joints cracking, body aching from months, years of concrete sleep and cheap liquor. He followed the sound toward the alley's far end, past a broken shopping cart and a pile of rotting cardboard. That's when he saw him, an old man, slumped against the wall. Not slumped like he was drunk, slumped like he was dying. His suit was black, tailored, and soaked in blood at the side. Expensive leather shoes, no dirt on them. His watch, gold, still ticking. Jonas stopped. "You lost, old man?" The old man's head lifted slowly, eyes glassy with something more than pain, something like calculation, as if he was seeing Jonas not for what he was, but for what he could be. He coughed again, blood this time. "Help! Me!" the man rasped, fingers trembling as he held out a phone slick with red. "Don't call an ambulance. No hospitals. Just help me hide." Jonas blinked. "Hide? You bleeding out and you want to hide?" The old man gripped his wrist with a surprising strength for someone on death's door. "They're coming. Can't let them find me like this." "Not yet." Jonas glanced around. No cars, no footsteps. Just that whispering wind through the alley mouth. Who was this guy? No ID, no wallet in sight. His jacket was lined with velvet. Who the hell wears velvet in this city? But more than that, why did he look at Jonas like that? Not with pity or disgust, but urgency. As if Jonas was chosen. "All right," Jonas said, swallowing hard. "But you better not die on me." He dragged the man across the alley, down into the underground maintenance tunnel he'd slept in last winter. The metal door groaned open and shut, hiding them beneath the concrete. The old man collapsed onto a mattress of newspaper, gasping, shivering. Jonas stared at the blood seeping through the floor. "You need a doctor." "No hospitals," the man snapped, eyes blazing through the pain. "No records, no news. Just let me rest, then I'll explain." "Explain what?" The old man's breathing slowed. "Everything." Hours passed. Jonas lit the small oil lamp he'd scrounged from a junkyard. The flames danced on the man's pale skin. The bleeding had slowed. Somehow, he'd tied it tight with his own shirt. Jonas watched him for signs of death, but the man lived. And finally, as dawn broke above them and the streets started to come alive with people who would never look their way, the old man opened his eyes and said, "Do you believe in fate, Jonas?" Jonas froze. "How do you know my name?" "I know more than you think," the man whispered. "I've been watching you." Jonas stepped back. The man smiled faintly. "I don't mean it like that. I've had my people keep an eye on certain places. I was looking for someone who's disappeared, someone the world has given up on, someone with nothing left to lose. And there you were." Jonas was still processing when the man pulled something from his pocket. A key, silver, ornate. "Take this," he said, "and listen carefully. Who are you?" "I was Henry Maddox. At least that's the name the headlines know. Billionaire, tycoon, cutthroat. But now I'm something else. Dying, hunted, and running out of time." Jonas couldn't speak. Henry Maddox? The man who vanished 3 weeks ago? The same Maddox whose empire was tearing itself apart in his absence? Headlines screamed about fraud, offshore accounts, missing heirs. "You faked your death." "No," Maddox whispered. "I'm trying to avoid it." Jonas didn't sleep that night, or the next. For the next 3 days he kept Maddox alive on canned soup and painkillers. He used a burner phone the old man had given him, calling only the numbers Maddox instructed. Cleaners, contacts, people who arrived without names and disappeared just as silently, leaving behind medicines and sealed envelopes. Each day Maddox spoke more, told stories of boardroom betrayals, shadow investors, and a daughter, his only family, who didn't know where he'd gone. "She thinks I abandoned her," he whispered one night. "She thinks I chose the business over her again, but I was trying to protect her. From all of it. From them." "Who?" Jonas asked. "They're already inside," Maddox said, voice hoarse. "My companies, my foundations, my home. I needed someone they'd never see coming. Someone beneath notice. You, Jonas." Jonas sat back, hands shaking. He hadn't meant to care. He didn't want to care. But the old man's voice, there was something honest in it. Maybe for the first time in a life of lies, Maddox was telling the truth. And then, on the 5th night, Maddox gave him a name. Kara, your daughter. Maddox nodded. Find her. When I'm gone, find her. Give her this. He handed Jonas a flash drive. Black. Sealed. It's the key to everything. My empire. My enemies. My secrets. Jonas hesitated. Why me? Maddox smiled. Because you're the last man on Earth who could walk into hell, and they'd never see you coming. The next morning, Henry Maddox was dead. He died in silence, eyes open, one hand clenched around that silver key. Jonas stood over the body for a long time. Something inside him twisted, broke, then hardened. He took the key, the flash drive, and the old man's name. The next time Jonas walked out of that alley, he wasn't just another ghost. He had purpose, a mission. And somewhere in the glass towers above, Kara Maddox, a woman with a fire in her blood and a target on her back, was waiting. She just didn't know it yet. The first thing Jonas learned about the world of the wealthy was this. Silence was never empty. It buzzed, with threats, with tension, with teeth. He felt it the moment he stepped into the lobby of Maddox Holdings. Gleaming floors, marble walls, men in tailored suits whispering behind polished glass, women with sharp eyes and sharper heels. Every inch of the place screamed power. And Jonas? He didn't belong. He could still smell the street on his coat, but he held the flash drive in his pocket and the silver key tucked under his sleeve. He kept Henry's voice in his mind like armor. They'll underestimate you. Let them. He didn't go straight to Kara. Henry had warned him. She's surrounded by wolves. Instead, he watched. For days, Kara Maddox appeared only in glimpses, descending from armored cars, her heels echoing like gunshots, hair pulled back into a perfect storm. Her face was unreadable, but Jonas saw it in her eyes. Pain buried under ice. She had the Empire's jawline, but none of its cruelty. At least, that's what he hoped. She passed him once on the street, didn't even glance. Why would she? He was just another homeless man on the sidewalk, leaning on a cane that wasn't for walking, but for hiding the blade inside. Another ghost, another nobody, exactly how he wanted it. Day 4, everything changed. Jonas was tailing a man from the inner circle, Vincent Parr, head of legal affairs, a snake with a Harvard tongue and eyes like oil slicks. He followed him down into a side garage, watched him hand off a black envelope to a man in a gray coat. Jonas crept closer. He heard 2 words. Take her. The man in gray nodded. Alive? Preferably, Parr said, but make it look like a suicide if things get messy. Jonas didn't need to hear the name. Kara. The trap was closing, and she had no idea. That night he broke into Maddox Holdings. The silver key wasn't for any lock in the building. It was for what was beneath it. A hidden level? Sub-basement 3, not listed on any blueprint. He found it through the freight elevator, an override switch behind a panel, just like Henry had said. The elevator sank below the city, deeper than it should have. The lights flickered. The silence buzzed louder now. When the doors opened, Jonas stepped into a vault of secrets. A steel room, servers humming, files stacked in coded boxes, and on the far wall, screens, showing her, Kara, in her penthouse, alone. Jonas stared. Henry had eyes on everything, and then he saw the feed go dark. He ran, through alleys, across rooftops, down streets slick with rain. He reached the tower just as the power flickered. Maddox Tower, 32 floors up. She was up there, alone, surrounded by liars, about to be taken. He bypassed security using Henry's old badge. Spoofed, tampered, still worked. The elevator raced up, heart pounding, hands sweating. He stepped out into silence, and screaming. A gunshot. Jonas kicked open the door. 3 men, one with a gun, one tying her hands, one at the window. Kara fought like a cornered lioness, but they were too many. Jonas didn't hesitate. The blade was out before he breathed. The man with the gun turned, too slow. The blade slid across his wrist. He screamed, dropped it. Kara stared at Jonas like she was seeing death. He took down the second man with a broken lamp. The third charged. Jonas flipped him through a glass table. Blood. Screams. Silence. Then Kara ran to the corner, grabbed the gun, and aimed it right at Jonas. "Who are you?" she barked, chest heaving. Jonas raised his hands. "Your father sent me." The words froze the air. Kara's eyes narrowed. "My father's dead." "No," Jonas said slowly. "He was hiding. He's dead now. But he died saving you." She didn't lower the gun. "Proof," she hissed. Jonas reached carefully into his coat and pulled out the flash drive. "This. He said you'd understand." She stared, then lowered the gun. "Why you?" she whispered. "Because I'm the only one who wasn't bought. The only one invisible enough to get to you." She looked like she wanted to scream, or cry, or kill. Instead, she whispered, "We need to get out of here." They left the tower in silence, not through the lobby, but through the hidden passage beneath the office. Jonas had scouted it days ago, an old wine cellar from the days before the tower, long forgotten. As they walked through the darkness, Kara finally spoke. "You're not just some beggar." "I was," Jonas said, "until your father bled out in my hands." She said nothing, just walked, strong, cold, broken. But Jonas saw it, the cracks behind the calm. "I hated him," she whispered. "He disappeared without a word. Let the world eat me alive." "He said he was protecting you," she scoffed. "He always said that, even when he left my mother, even when he destroyed lives in the name of business. Always protecting, always lying." Jonas said nothing. Some wounds weren't meant to be answered. At the safe house, Jonas showed her everything. The files, the names, the contracts signed in blood and forged in boardrooms. Vincent Parr, Lila Crane, the Maddox inner circle. They had been gutting the empire from the inside, framing Henry, erasing evidence, planning a final move that would destroy Kara and take it all. "But why now?" she asked. Jonas slid a file toward her. Because Henry was dying. He hadn't told anyone but a few doctors. Paid off. The board smelled weakness, and they weren't waiting for nature to take its course. "They're going to finish what they started," Jonas said, "unless you stop them." She looked at him. We stop them. That night, Kara made a decision. She walked into the storm of her father's world, not as a girl looking for answers, but as the heir to a kingdom of fire and glass. Jonas walked beside her, silent, deadly, loyal, a man with no name in the halls of power, but soon everyone would know his face. They had no money, no army, no allies, but they had truth, and a vengeance the inner circle didn't see coming. Because in the shadows of Maddox's empire, ghosts were rising, and this time, they weren't begging. Power doesn't reveal who you are. It reveals who was never afraid to become a monster. Kara understood that the night she walked back into Maddox Tower, not as a daughter grieving her father, but as a storm ready to burn down the boardroom. Jonas walked a step behind her, silent, dressed in a suit that didn't quite fit, but still somehow made him look lethal, like a wolf forced into a dinner jacket. He wore it like armor. Kara's high heels tapped like war drums against the marble floor. The receptionist, same woman who once looked down at Jonas like trash, now stood up fast. "Miss Maddox." "Summon the board," Kara said coldly. "All of them. Now!" The boardroom smelled like old men, old lies, and expensive scotch. Vincent Parr smiled when she entered, smooth, calculated. "Kara," he said, fake warmth dripping like poison, "we're all grieving your father. But I must say, it's good to see you finally taking an interest in the company. Though I'd hoped..." "You hoped I'd vanish," she interrupted. "Like he did." The smile flickered. "I'm here to tell you something, gentlemen," she said, eyes sweeping the table. "I'm not vanishing. And this empire, it's mine." Lila Crane leaned back, pearl necklace tight across her throat. "You're welcome to the title, dear. But business doesn't care about grief, or legacy, or tantrums." "I'm not throwing a tantrum," Kara said calmly. "I'm starting a war." She placed the flash drive on the table. "Let's begin." By nightfall, 3 board members had resigned, not because of loyalty, but because of fear. Inside that drive were Henry's recordings, leaked emails, forged signatures, laundered deals, enough dirt to bury half the inner circle under government trials. Vincent Parr didn't blink. "Nice move," he said after the meeting. "But empires aren't burned by USB sticks, Kara. They're burned by weakness." "You'd know," Jonas said quietly. Parr turned. "And you are?" "The man who watched you order her murder," Jonas replied. "In a garage, with a gray coat." Parr's smile dropped. Kara leaned in. "Next time you send someone to kill me, Vincent, make sure they don't bleed." But it wasn't over. That was just the beginning. Because now the game turned dark. Lila Crane launched a whisper campaign. Kara was unstable, unfit. Rumors flooded social media. Leaks planted. A false report from a psychiatrist Kara had never met. Shareholders got nervous. Banks pulled lines of credit. The walls began to sweat. And still, Kara stood. Jonas watched her change. Each day she became sharper, colder. But somewhere behind those eyes, the pain still flickered. Late one night, she asked, "Do you think I'm becoming him?" Jonas didn't answer. Because the truth? She was becoming something worse. Jonas had his own mission. The final key from Henry. An address. No name. No explanation. Just coordinates and a phrase written in Henry's scrawl. "Trust no one but the dead." He followed the trail to a forgotten psychiatric hospital on the edge of the city. Closed. Condemned. Its windows shattered like broken mines. Inside, he found what Henry had hidden for decades. Room 41. A file sealed in a metal box. Kara Maddox's mother. Not dead, not missing. Institutionalized under a false name. By Henry. The truth was acid in Jonas's throat. She hadn't died of illness. She'd been erased because she knew something. Something that could end the entire Maddox legacy. Jonas brought the file to Kara. She read it in silence. Then again. Then a third time. When she finally looked up, her eyes were glass. He locked her away, she whispered. Said she was sick. Said she died peacefully. All lies. Jonas nodded. But she's alive. We can get her out. Kara shook her head. We can't. Why not? Because now, they'll kill her first. She stood, grabbing her coat. We're going now. Tonight. The rescue was brutal. Jonas handled the outside, hacking the ancient system, disabling the rusted locks. Kara went in with a stolen ID badge and a fake court order. They found her in the basement ward. Thin, gray, but not broken. Evelyn, Kara whispered. The woman turned, and for the first time in 20 years, mother and daughter met again, but someone had tipped them off. As they exited, headlights flared. Black SUVs, men with silenced rifles. Jonas threw Kara and Evelyn behind a rusted ambulance. Gunfire shattered the night. He moved like shadow. One down, then another. But they kept coming. Then, boom! The front of the hospital exploded. Smoke, screams, chaos. Kara dragged her mother to the tree line. Jonas limped behind, blood on his arm. They didn't stop until they reached the river. Kara sat by the water as dawn broke. Her mother slept. Jonas stitched his arm in silence. She finally spoke. I always thought power would feel like flying. It doesn't, Jonas said. No, she nodded. It feels like drowning slowly in golden chains. He looked at her. You can still walk away. She met his gaze. And leave them with everything? We finish this. How? She smiled coldly. We take their souls. Operation Ghostfire. That's what she named it. A plan not just to survive, but to obliterate the Maddox traitors. Jonas hacked their communications. Kara met with former enemies, turned them into allies. They bought debt under fake names, acquired properties under shellcore, infiltrated everything the inner circle owned. Piece by piece, they built a hidden empire beneath the traitors' feet. Then, they lit the match. 1 week later, Vincent Parr walked into a board meeting and found his seat gone. His credentials locked, his access denied, his offshore accounts frozen. Kara sat at the head of the table. You tried to erase me, she said calmly. So I erased you. Lila Crane didn't even show up that day. She knew it was over. Her estate burned 2 days later in what the news called a freak electrical fire. She was never found. Kara stood in the ashes of the Maddox legacy, not as an heir, but as the author of its ending. Jonas watched from the tower balcony. You did it, he said. No, she replied. We did it. He looked at her, and for the first time he saw something strange in her eyes. Not rage, not grief, but something colder, something dangerous. Love? Maybe, but wrapped in fire and knives. But as they turned to leave, a message arrived. A burner phone Jonas hadn't used since Henry died. 1 text, 6 words. You think this is over? V. Jonas stared at it, then looked up. In the distance, another tower lit up, flames consuming its top floor. A final move. Vincent wasn't dead, and he wasn't done. Kara clenched her fists. Let him come, she said, but Jonas frowned. Because that fire? It wasn't Vincent's style. This was something worse. Something Henry never told them. Something that didn't want an empire. It wanted blood. Every empire falls. But some don't die quietly. They scream. The Maddox Tower stood silent now. Empty floors. Darkened glass. The echo of betrayal clinging to every steel beam. Jonas had been walking its halls alone when the second fire happened. This time, not at a rival's compound or corporate building, but at their own safe house. Kara's voice over the phone was ice. Jonas, we have a problem. They found the body in the river. It wasn't Vincent Parr. It was Daniel Chen, their closest ally on the inside. Tongue cut out, eyes wide open, chest carved with a single word. Liar. Jonas read the crime scene report in silence. Kara paced behind him. She hadn't slept in days. Shadows clawed beneath her eyes. There was something unraveling in her, something dangerous. Jonas felt it in his bones. We didn't just inherit an empire, she said. We inherited its curses. A ghost from the past was moving. Jonas went back through the encrypted archives, tapes from Henry's old sessions, back when he'd forced people to confess, record and break. And there, buried deep beneath fake file names, they found a confession. Not Henry's, but his twin brother's. Mason Maddox, thought dead. He wasn't. He had faked his death 20 years ago after a power struggle with Henry. Everyone believed Henry had won. that Mason had overdosed in a foreign country, a scandal buried fast. But Mason hadn't died. He had simply disappeared, into the underground, into the darkness. And now, he was back, not for revenge, for domination. Mason was worse than Henry. He didn't build empires. He built cults, political pawns, paramilitary mercenaries, online fanatics who worshipped chaos. His reach went beyond money. It touched fear, ideology, and violence. He was the man you sent when you wanted not just a business crushed, but an entire belief system shattered. Kara and Jonas weren't facing a rival. They were facing a war. It started with silence. The city's financial system froze for 6 hours. Billions vanished into black wallets, unrecoverable. Next, 10 CEOs were arrested for crimes they didn't commit. Photos, videos, fake testimonies planted so perfectly, even the FBI couldn't tell truth from fiction. Then, on the 3rd day, Kara's mother vanished, gone from the clinic without a trace. Jonas found a single scrap of paper on her pillow. The Queen falls first. M. Kara shattered. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She stopped speaking. For 48 hours, she didn't say a word. Jonas handled the fallout alone, ran their digital defenses, moved assets, protected what he could, until the 3rd night, when Kara finally spoke again. He wants me to break. He wants the monster Henry created to return. Jonas didn't respond, because he feared it already had. Then came the invitation. A red envelope delivered by hand. Gold seal, M. Inside, a location, a time, a message. Let's finish what our fathers started. 1 empire, 1 heir, 1 survivor. Kara didn't hesitate. She chose war. The final meeting was held in a ruined cathedral, outside the city, lost in the woods, draped in moonlight. Mason stood beneath the collapsed altar, cloaked in shadow, surrounded by his children, disciples, mercenaries, twisted reflections of his madness. A dozen dead-eyed believers ready to burn the world. Kara walked in like a queen of ice and ash. Jonas followed. Mason smiled. You brought the beggar, he said. Still keeping pets, Kara? I brought the man who watched your brother die, she replied coldly. Mason's eyes glinted. Good, then you both can die together. And then chaos. The doors exploded inward. Jonas had planted charges before arrival. Kara dove behind pews. Gunfire erupted. Screams tore through the cathedral. Jonas moved like a ghost. 1 shot, 1 body, no mercy. Kara sprinted toward Mason. He ran. Down the ancient halls, toward the catacombs. Jonas followed, bleeding from a shoulder wound. They found Mason in the crypt, laughing. I knew you'd come, he said, cornered. Blood always calls to blood. Kara aimed the gun. Mason didn't flinch. You think this ends with me? You think you win by killing me? Your father tried that. Look where he ended up. Jonas stepped forward. No, he said quietly. We end this another way. He lit the fuse. The crypt exploded. Fire tore through the tunnels. Jonas dragged Kara out just in time. The cathedral collapsed. The cult inside, gone. Mason Maddox, gone. And the empire, ashes now, but free. 2 weeks later, the world returned to silence. The Maddox name dissolved. Their holdings dismantled. Every dollar redistributed to former victims, whistleblowers, charities. Kara's final move to erase the blood legacy. She didn't keep a single cent. Not one. Jonas found her standing at a quiet train station, wearing a simple coat, holding 1 suitcase. No more towers, she said. No more ghosts. Where will you go? Jonas asked. She looked up. Anywhere that doesn't remember me. Jonas left with her, not as her protector, not even as her partner, but as something quieter, a shadow beside her shadow. 2 people who had burned an empire, and somehow survived it, together. Epilogue. 5 years later, in a small coastal town no one remembers, a girl with black hair and storm eyes asks her mother a question. Mom, why don't we have a last name? Kara smiles softly. Because names carry ghosts. And we don't need ghosts, Jonas says, setting down his coffee. Just each other.